She's the woman at the center of a sensational murder trial, the other woman. On Saturday, Martin MacNeill, a prominent Utah doctor, was found guilty of killing his wife. But now all eyes are on his former mistress. Did MacNeill kill for love? Nightline's Dan Abrams has the exclusive interview for our series, Crime and Punishment.
Now, we, the jury, find the defendant as to count 1, murder, guilty.
Martin MacNeill, convicted this weekend in a Utah courtroom of murdering his wife in the couple's bathtub. The alleged motive? This woman, his longtime girlfriend.
I love Martin.
You still love him?
I care for him on a very, very deep soul level.
Today, Gypsy Willis sat down with us to explain her role in the bizarre murder trial of her former lover, a prominent Utah physician. Prosecutors successfully argued that MacNeill convinced his wife, Michelle, to get a facelift just so he could overprescribe medication and ultimately kill her, all to start a new life with Gypsy.
To me, he could never have done such a thing.
But he loved you, and the allegation was he loved you so much that he wanted his wife out of the picture so he could be with you.
Martin had me anytime he wanted me. I do not believe that I was any kind of incentive.
There are some who believe you were involved in planning the murder of Michelle MacNeill. You didn't know anything.
I did not know anything.
The jury reached its verdict after 11 hours of deliberation.
Mr. MacNeill, if you will stand, please.
For MacNeill's daughters, this was the moment they'd been fighting for 6.5 years to see.
Guilty.
In fact, it was Rachel and Alexis's single-minded determination that brought this case to trial at all and ultimately led to their once beloved father's conviction.
Ever since the day my mom died, I was concerned that my father killed her. And I've been fighting to get justice for this case ever since then.
Alexis testified that shortly before her mother died, Michelle suspected MacNeill was having an affair with Gypsy.
Gypsy Jillian Willis. I know that woman. I know Mom was worried you were having an affair with her, and you're not to bring her into this home.
And how did he respond?
Oh, he got irate. He was screaming at me, saying, how dare you accuse me?
Do you understand the animosity that his daughters feel towards you?
I understand, and I'm sorry for it. I was more selfish back then, and truthfully, I was living my life for me.
Part of that life included moving into the MacNeill home as the family nanny just over a week after Michelle's death.
I expected her to be focused on the children. I expected her to do things related to that, to cook or clean or take care of the children.
And what did you see her doing?
My dad was cooking. She was sitting there staring at my dad. It just was obvious that she's just goo eyes at my dad.
Did you ever think to yourself, this would be a terrible idea for me to come in and be the family nanny?
Yes, I did.
After everything that was happening?
Yes, it was a huge mistake. I'm so sorry. I only wanted to come and support the man I cared for in whatever way I could.
To this day, Gypsy Willis believes MacNeill is innocent and says she was shocked by the verdict.
It took me a little while to pull myself together.
Why were you shocked? There seemed like there was so much evidence against him.
The Martin I knew and loved was not the person that he was portrayed on the stand.
So to this day, you don't believe that he killed Michelle?
I really don't.
MacNeill's attorneys argued Michelle's death was an accident, that she collapsed while preparing the tub, not a murder at all.
There is not evidence in this case that rises to the level of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
And the medical examiner initially agreed, ruling that she died of natural causes. But once the daughters convinced the authorities to take a second look years later, they learned a lot more about Martin MacNeill and Michelle's death.
Okay, is she conscious?
Starting with the 911 call, where MacNeill claimed he couldn't even help her out of the tub.
Okay, did you get her out of the water? I can't. I couldn't get the water out.
Prosecutors also presented evidence that MacNeill pushed her doctor to prescribe more aggressive drugs, and then after her death, asked a family friend to throw them all away.
Ms. Willis, if you'll come forward.
But the prosecution's case always came back to MacNeill's relationship with Gypsy.
When did the two of you meet?
In 2005, November.
What attracted you to Martin MacNeill in the first place?
We started speaking on instant messenger on the computer. He was very smart, and he was funny, and he was quick-witted, and we had an immediate rapport.
When you heard that Michelle MacNeill had died, did any part of you think, it's a good thing? Now I can have him to myself.
That was not my thought at that time. I was shocked, and then I was concerned for his sake.
And it wasn't smooth sailing for the couple. While Martin MacNeill was not initially arrested or even a suspect, his world started to crumble 2 years after his wife's death, when he and Gypsy were arrested for stealing the identity of Martin's adopted Ukrainian daughter and giving it to Gypsy so she could escape paying off a massive debt. Did you ever say to him, Martin, you gotta be kidding me. You're telling me to take your daughter's identity?
I did, and I was uncomfortable with it. We had some arguments about it, actually, and it always came down to him saying to me, well, who knows better, you or I?
Both served time in federal prison, and it wasn't until MacNeill was released that Utah prosecutors charged him for his wife's death. A woman Gypsy told us she respected deeply. You said you had great respect for Michelle MacNeill.
Yes.
But you were sleeping with her husband.
I have to say, as time has gone on, I have had more and more respect for her.
I think we probably had sex half the time.
During the 14-day trial, Gypsy was a star witness for the prosecution.
I dressed in a dress. It was appropriate for the circumstance.
MacNeill's attorneys now say that Gypsy Willis made their case that much tougher.
We wanted to get her off the stand as quickly as possible because we didn't want it to appear like she was covering or protecting Martin.
A legitimate concern, since she sent racy texts to MacNeill the day before Michelle's funeral.
There's one picture where it is a little bit suggestive.
It's showing your buttocks.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to distract him. Also, you know, I'd love this guy, and I wanted to keep his attention.
She did, and then even attended Michelle's funeral. You wanted to go to the funeral of the woman whose husband you'd been having an affair with?
I was sorry. I was sorry that it was inappropriate.
Despite those inappropriate choices, prosecutors did not charge her in connection with Michelle's death, and her lawyer doesn't expect that'll happen.
I believe if they had something, there would have been 2 people at trial last month.
While Gypsy walked away a free woman, for his daughters, the guilty verdict against their father provided the justice they'd long sought. MacNeill now faces up to life in prison.
It's a whole web of lies. This was very well planned out. He almost got away with it.
Knowing everything that you know now, you sorry you ever met Martin MacNeill?
I truly cared for him, and I can't say that I'm sorry that I loved him, but I think everyone's life would have been better if I had not met him.